This is the EWN Podcast Network.
Ever wondered how you could turn your side hustle into a full-time gig and spend more time together?
Hi, I'm Vikki, a #1 best-selling author.
And I'm John, a retired Los Angeles police officer. Welcome to Dig the Well, where we help couples navigate the world of business.
We've been married for 35 years, and because we built a successful side business, John retired 9 years earlier than he originally planned from the Los Angeles Police Department after 25 years on the job. Now we spend more time together, and we want to help couples like you do the same.
Join us as we help you overcome common obstacles, and we show you how to make extra income without sacrificing family time.
Ready to dig deep and build your well? Let's get started. All right, here we are, excited to be sharing a topic that is being talked about more and more. But when we first started our business years and years ago, multiple income streams was not talked about. So we're going to get into the why you should have multiple income streams.
Yeah, it only makes sense, right? If you have just one income stream, it's almost like investing, right? If you don't diversify and you have just your income coming from one source, that gets pretty tough. I don't remember who quoted, I remember this quote. It said, I would rather have 1% of 100 people's income than 100% of one. So that's what we kind of looked at too, is just having multiple income streams. And it's something like Vic said, we've been doing since the 80s when nobody was talking about it. And it just made so much sense. And it's worked out really well for us. And I think part of the key is residual income, like passive residual income. And we'll get into more about that a little bit.
Yeah. And fun fact you brought up before we started recording, 5 decades. Is that possible?
Yeah, since the 80s.
Yeah, 5 decades. Do we look that old? I don't hope not.
I don't feel like it,
but lots of life lessons, life experience, that's for sure. And so, I kind of want to ask you, John, about, your first business, tinting windows out of your parents' garage.
Yeah, so I started that when I was in high school. And I remember my dad bought a truck and he wanted to tint the windows in the truck. So he said, hey, let's give this a whirl. And so he and I tinted his truck windows. And it really wasn't that difficult. At least I didn't think it was that difficult. And it turned out we did a pretty good job.
Yeah,
it turned out
you
really
did.
Well. And then, I met my dad and I.
Yeah. Oh, gotcha.
You went there. So, and then my buddies that had cars in high school, they were like, hey, can you tint my windows? I'm like, yeah. So I started tinting them. And at that time I was doing it for beer money, or they would just give me beer for tinting their cars. And then I thought, well, and then somebody actually said, you can make money doing this. My dad was all about it. He said, you know what, why don't you? And if you're going to start your own business, do it now, because later when you get a family and you get kind of stuck almost in that kind of working rut, just having a job, you'll probably not want to start a job at that or a business, start your own business at that time. So I did, and I worked out of my mom and dad's garage through high school. And then the business grew, and then I got a business location, actually got a business license. Got
dealerships, right? You were doing car dealers too?
Had a bunch of commercial accounts besides just retail. And then we met in college.
Yeah.
And then when you graduated, I made an offer to Vic. I said, hey, look, here's the deal. Whatever, she had a lot of job offers when she was in college. And I said, once you graduate, whatever your best offer is, I'll at least match it, if not beat that, if you want to come and work for me.
And he did. You did.
I know, crazy, huh?
You paid me a lot of money to be your office manager.
Yeah, it turned out it was. You know what? I'll tell you, we're gonna talk about that in another episode about how stressful it is working with someone, your partner. I mean, we weren't married yet. Mm-hmm. And it's shocking that we ended up getting married after that.
We had some knockdown, drag out verbal fights.
A lot of screaming and yelling. I'm surprised no one called the police on us.
I know, me too. But back to the multiple income. Yeah. So you had prestige window tinting.
Yeah.
And then that morphed into prestige motoring accessories, where you started. Was that kind of your, it wasn't multiple income streams, but it kind of led to that. So was there a method behind your madness at that time, or?
Yeah, the place I leased had some commercial space up front and had quite a bit of warehouse space in back. So it was a really tall portion in back, and it was a couple of thousand square feet of just warehouse space. And that was where we worked on the cars. That's where we were able to tint the cars, and hired a couple of people to help out. I mean, the business was growing, everything was going well. Then I thought, well, you know what? Why not tap into another source of income, not just from window tinting, but we have this huge customer base that's coming to us to get their windows tinted. And one of the things that we really strived on was quality. We wanted to be the best. And when we kind of made a name for ourselves as being the best, we could charge the most.
I remember your motto. John's really great with branding and mottos. It was prestige motoring accessories. We major in the minor details.
Yeah,
and It goes right with what you're saying.
Yeah.
Like
we
quality.
ran some TV commercials that had that on there. And at any rate, I always wanted us to, we always did the job right. And if we didn't do the job right, we did it over again. And it was frustrating at times when you spend, an hour or more on a car and something doesn't look exactly right, that you have to rip it all off and start over again. But I wanted that kind of quality. And so our customer base would come to us and say, hey, look, I want to upgrade the audio system in my car because I just have the stock. And back then, if you think of it, back in the 80s and the 90s, car stereos weren't very good.
Yeah.
Like today you can buy a car off the showroom floor that has, just a great audio system in it. But back in the day, you couldn't. And you couldn't buy a car that had nice rims or wheels or a decent suspension. All those were upgrades later. So we kind of moved into all that. And we just took on like car stereos. Then we took on car alarms. And then we started taking on more
wheels and
more
tires. Remember, we do that.
And we would get certified through like a couple of the companies that did suspension systems. We get certified through them, so we could do that, even though we didn't have a lift. So it made our jobs a lot harder, but we still wanted that because it was income for us. It was just another source of income. So I think we didn't. I don't know. I didn't probably read about it or hear about it, but it just made sense. Like we have this customer base, we can reach a larger customer base and just keep getting more and more income. And it really worked out well. We kept growing. We ended up getting to a bigger location, more and more accounts. We were doing pretty much all the window tinting for cars and television commercials and print advertising.
Yeah, we still have all those pictures. Mm-hmm. I'd love to tell the story about, you see it all the time in car commercials, that the windshield is blacked out, right? The side windows are all blacked out in the car. Why? You told me this. So the consumers, they're watching the ad, pays attention to the car instead of seeing the person driving inside, right? And we were the first company to do that. And we made a killing.
Yeah, we did. We made an absolute killing on it. The company that came to us was a company that did car prep. And they said, hey, look, this is what our client wants. And the client was the very first car, if you think of it, the very first car in a television ad or in any advertising at all that had tint was a Mitsubishi Galant, I think it was. And the commercial was a white Galant driving through supposed to be the clouds. It was floating through clouds. So they had these smoke machines on set. And they said the client, which was Mitsubishi, wanted to have this white car, but they didn't want people to pay attention to the driver. And they said, can you do something about that? I'm like, can we? So
Limo
absolutely we can. So they paid us to go on set with them. And then they had several of those prototype cars set up. And we tinted them at different varying levels of tint so they could figure out which one they wanted. And they shot each one over and over again and figured out the one they picked on. The one they picked was one that was tinted really dark. But that's what we did. We tinted the windshield, all the windows. Yeah. And that kind of kicked it off. From that point on, that company and everybody came to us to do the window tint.
Yeah.
And anybody could have done that job. And it really didn't even require a quality job.
I know. We put the windshield on the outside, right?
Yeah, just for speed. We did most of the tint on the outside of the car, not on the inside.
You would never do that.
But you're not going to pick that up on television.
Yeah. So that was really super fun.
That was a fun time.
Yeah, really was. But then think about it. Then we got into, we'll get into a couple things, but one was the window tinting of office buildings, because we have earthquakes out here in California and we have security film. And so remember Calcan? Yes, Calcan for dog food. Are they even around anymore?
No idea.
I don't know. But anyway, their big corporate office was in an earthquake zone. Remember that? And we had to hire more people to go out and get that job done. But that was so lucrative, that job. And then we expanded into home theater and created a separate company called Prestige Home Theater. Mm-hmm. Yeah. And tell us about that too.
So, and that's when we kind of got into a little bit more of the residual income. So we got into the Prestige Home Theater, and we were selling high-end home theater equipment and doing the installs. And back then, they didn't have we weren't streaming anything back then. And it was either cable TV or it was through those giant satellite dishes, those 10-foot in diameter satellite dishes. Well, a lot of our clients wanted that because they could access these satellites and the several satellites that are orbiting the Earth, and they could watch almost anything they wanted. And the cost of programming wasn't that much, but they got they signed up for the programming through us. So the companies that were I guess broadcasting all of that, they paid us a royalty on or a commission on all of our customers who had signed up through us. So once we did the sale, we made money on the sale, we made money on the installation, and then we were getting a monthly check as long as they kept their programming going. And that worked out also when we got into cellular phones, because back in the 80s, it was really rare to have a cellular phone. And so we ended up selling cell phones. And back then, there was no such thing as a mobile cell phone. So they had to be hard wired or installed in the car. And there was
or they had that huge bag.
That came later.
It did?
At first we were doing, those are called transportable.
Oh, jeez.
You had to, it was portable, but you had to take that giant transceiver with you, which was like the size of an old VCR.
Big purse. Yeah, women. Yeah. But men were carrying them around.
And I don't know if, for those of you who are probably dating it now, but for those of you who remember the little curly antennas that were on the back window. So we would install those, run the wire, the antenna wire through the car, run all the power wires from the transceiver we mounted in the trunk to the actual handset that was mounted in the front of the car. So it was a several $100 installation, and the equipment itself was thousands. And then we would sign them up on a cell contract. And there were only 2 cell phone carriers in Southern California, and we were authorized resellers of both. So whichever one they chose, they were signing up through us, and we received a monthly residual check on every single account.
And didn't we figure out on average, it was about $3,000 a month for your cell phone bill, wasn't it?
Yeah, could you imagine?
Yeah, and we got a percentage of that. But add that up, a lot of customers.
And back then, it was a simple system. You paid a monthly fee for the cell service, which was pretty expensive, and then you paid 90 cents per minute of use. And then during peak time, which is pretty much most of the day, then in the middle of the night, it dropped to 45 cents a minute.
That's right.
And here's the crazy part. If someone called you on your cell phone and it rang, it counted as a minute.
Yeah.
Even if you don't pick up and answer it.
That one even went into the 2000s, I feel like. When our kids went to high school and we finally got them a phone, I feel like we told them, you're going to pay, even if you don't answer.
But that was kind of our first taste of passive residual income. And then I thought, wow, this makes sense.
Yeah.
This is where you're going to make money, because all the work we did the month before, we're still getting paid on. The year before, we're still getting paid on. And it worked out great until the cell companies realized, hey, we can keep all that money ourselves. So we need to devise a way to cut all these resellers out, which was us and thousands of people like us across the country. And the way they did it was all of a sudden now they're giving away free phones.
Oh, yeah.
And that's where that came from. If you wondered why are all these cell providers giving away a free phone if you sign up for them? Because now they can cut us out and go direct.
That's right. Yeah. That's right. Yeah.
So that crazy train came to a halt.
Yeah, that's for sure. And, it's funny. I'm sure some of you have heard of direct sales, multi-level marketing. We had our business, traditional brick and mortar in the city of Brea. That was the second shop we moved to. And somebody comes waltzing in the door and selling us personal alarms. We had car alarms, personal alarms, and it was great for women that would be walking alone because they had this screeching alarm sound when you pulled this plug. It was almost like a pager, and you just pulled the plug if you were being attacked, and it would scare the guy away. And I actually even went to my sorority and sold some to them. But when that guy walked in, and told us about it. He made a grave mistake because he didn't even offer the business model of that direct sale. It was Quorum. If any of you guys have heard of Quorum, it was that company. And they didn't even offer us to become a distributor. He just sold it to us, basically half price. We marked it up, and then sold it. And then somebody else came and brought Amway our way.
Yeah.
Remember that?
Yeah.
Yeah. And if you don't know much about, again, multi-level direct sales, and say what you want, there are people that do it the wrong way, but we had the best experience with our Amway business, because guess why? As brick and mortar business owners, going through all that we're paying for payroll taxes, for workers' comp, for just the insurance on the shop itself, all the things, the lease, when Amway was kind of dumped in our lap by a friend, we thought, why has no one ever told us about this? We were in our 20s and we were like, why didn't they tell us before we started our business? We would have cut out a lot of headaches, right?
Yeah. In fact, it was kind of after that I had made the decision that I would never own a conventional business again. It just doesn't make any sense. There's too much trouble, too many pitfalls. There's an easier way to make money. There's a better way to make money because we're no longer with Amway. But like Vic said, it was a really good experience when we were a part of it.
Yeah.
We learned a lot.
Our marriage got stronger. They had us reading some great personal development books that helped us with the traditional business too, things like that. Yeah.
And it was really cool because there was a team of people that were helping us when we got started, and we were able to help the people that we got started. So it was everybody kind of helping each other. So that all worked out. But there were some other reasons why we finally just pulled away from Amway.
Yeah, I feel like we had people leave the company and they were really good friends. And I let that steal my own dream. They left and I thought, oh, I can't be successful. And that's a shame. That's really a shame. But that's about the time when we ended up closing the doors of Prestige Motor Accessories. And John went to the Los Angeles Police Department around that time, early 90s. And, but we knew we would always be business owners. Remember, we discussed it.
Right.
We were heartbroken. We know that's the way for the American dream to happen. Yeah. Working for someone else isn't.
So, and once again, that was one of the big pitfalls of being an entrepreneur, owning your own conventional business, is that, you don't have anyone providing you benefits. And so our healthcare was, we had to pay for our own health insurance for not only both of us, but then we had our kids. So we had 2 children at the time too. So it was getting expensive, just that alone, with all the other expenses too. So that's why I thought, well, let me get like a regular job. So what more could be a regular job than the Los Angeles Police Department? But I liked it because I could help people. It was a lot of fun, and I got full benefits, and a pension, and all the things that I want, but I'm still trading hours for dollars, right? I'm working not for my dream anymore. I'm just a cog in the wheel, right?
And putting yourself in harm's way. Yeah. Let's not forget that, like major harm's way. Yeah. As the wife, that's what I pay attention to. Yeah. And so I'll never forget when you said, we are going to find that perfect business, Vic, I promise, because we were heartbroken when we closed Prestige. We really were. Yeah. And then other things fell in our lap. A friend of mine was selling candles, and it was a fun way for me to make money alongside of raising the kids, being home for them, but bringing in some great income to contribute to the family. And I was successful there. But then I started seeing some changes when the company sold from a family-owned company into owned by it's traded on the New York Stock Exchange. Big changes there. We're not going to get into all that because we're still talking about multiple income streams. I promise we're going to get back to that. But John, here comes the multiple income stream. When our son was in high school, decided to create a photography business still while working at the Los Angeles Police Department.
Yeah. So I was thinking about what else could I do to bring more income in for the family, right? And like at the top of the show, we were talking about multiple income streams and and not wanting to trade hours for dollars. Well, I could work overtime, and I did work a little bit of overtime, but not much, because I still saw working overtime is just still trading hours for dollars. It just may be a few more dollars, but you're still trading hours for dollars. And you can only work so many hours in a day. So I remember I read a study where they looked at some of the highest income earners in America. And they looked at what they had in common. And there were several things they had in common. But one of the things that was kind of glaring was every one of them had multiple streams of significant income. And I think they said the minimum out of all these guys that are men and women that are making so much money, the minimum was 7. Most had well into double digits. And so if you think about it, if you had how much overtime to have 7, well, you couldn't have 7 sources of your regular job plus 6 more overtime spots because there's just not enough hours in the day. And if it's not a passive kind of residual income, then you're going to have to repeat that week after week after week. So I was always looking for something else that had that passive residual component to it. And so, like Vic was saying, when our son was in high school, I've always been interested in photography. So I thought, well, you know what? He's only going to go through high school once. Don't know if he's going to go on playing football after high school or not, which I'm glad I took the pictures that I did because he decided he didn't want to play past high school. He was kind of burned out on it. So we went out and bought some really good professional photography gear. Spent a lot of money on that stuff.
Yeah, a lot.
But I wanted to have quality pictures of him so that he could have for the rest of his life and show his kids. And so then I was taking some pictures, and I remember someone came up to me and said, "Hey, could you submit some of your photos to me?" And it turns out he was the director of photography for CBS Sports, and it was at a high school football game. And I said, "Sure." So I sent him these pictures because give me pictures from 5 different sports, daytime, nighttime, everything. I just want to see. So I sent him these pictures. And so he said, "Great. You want to start shooting for CBS Sports? I'll get you media credentials." And he said, "We'll now sell your images." Before I decided that I could take other pictures from the other sports and put them on my own website. So then it's conventional business again, almost, right?
Yeah.
So here I am having to get a website, having to either pay someone or figure it out myself how to make that work and do all of that nonsense with it. It's just a pain, but there's still a residual component to it because once I take my pictures, put them on the website, they'll live there forever. Well, CBS and Max Preps, which is the high school part of CBS Sports, they put them on their website and they get thousands of viewers every day. So those images sold like crazy. I have not taken a picture at a high school sports event in over 10 years. And I still get, to this day, it used to be checks from them, but now they just do direct deposit. But I still make money on those images.
That's amazing. That's amazing. Yeah. Yeah. So honestly, really our point, and I think you really touched on it in that last share there, was that, you read that article about millionaires, and that's what we wanted to talk about the most and leave with you today. Whatever you're doing now, whether you have a conventional business, whether you have a traditional 9 to 5 or not 9 to 5, anytime where it's typically corporate America or a city government job, look at having multiple income streams. That's the wave of the future. Gen Z, all these kids born after 2000, they're all entrepreneurial minded. They get it. And congratulations, Gen Z, if you're watching this, listening to this. We are so proud of you. You are our people. John, did you have any last minute tips on, what else, what specifically they could look into?
Well, I would say there's so many things you can do. The sky's the limit. But I'll tell you, we've tried so many different things, and we have personally found something that has really stuck. And we've been, how many years now?
12 years now with the company we're with now. Yeah.
And it works. And that has just been a goldmine for us. And so if, I mean, like the photography thing was great. It was still a lot of work though. But that turned out well. It's still working out well for me. I just haven't done anything. In fact, I sold
Yeah.
some of my stuff. It was rough selling some of that stuff because it was just nice to have, but I'm not using it, just sitting in a room. So anyways,
Yeah.
what would you suggest then if
Yeah. And, we've talked about it a lot. One, I think, poor piece of advice that a lot of people are given is do something you're passionate about. Now, in some cases, that's true, right? You should do something you're passionate about. But in a lot of cases, like the business we're in right now, it is not something John was passionate about. It's not something I was passionate about. But guess what? It's products that are in demand, desired, they sell, they get repeat orders. And that was key for us when we were kind of still looking for that perfect business. It didn't necessarily, it would be great if we were passionate, like car stereo as an alarm and fun car stuff, for John. It didn't turn out that way. It's clean skincare, hair care, wellness, and weight loss. But guess what? It sells. It performs better than anything else out there on the market. And I'm not pitching you on the company, but I'm just saying that because we were smart this go round and didn't just follow something we were passionate about. Because even me as a woman, I wasn't passionate about skincare. I'm not. I want to grow old gracefully, but it wasn't that I was passionate. But we wrote down our pros and cons, and we were like, wow, this seems like the answer that we've been praying for, right?
But there's a lot of things out there. So I would suggest find something. And if you need help finding it, reach out to us and we can see if we can help find something that might be a good fit for you. But find something because I think it would really, you would do your family so much if you would get away from working overtime, if that's what you're doing, and focus on working for yourself. Focus on something that has some a residual component to it, to where you're going to continue to get paid on it. And that's kind of the secret right there, because then as you continue to do that, it just keeps compounding. And it's pretty soon what may only seem like a small amount of money per month turns into something fairly large.
And it's honestly the name of our podcast, Dig the Well. You're digging your well, maybe before you need it, but when you need it, you can really turn it up.
Right.
So thanks. Thanks for joining us on Dig the Well.
We hope you feel empowered and ready to take on new challenges.
Remember, if we can do it, so can you. Keep learning, keep believing, and going after your dreams.
And if you enjoyed this episode, share it with someone who needs a little inspiration or maybe a nudge in the right direction.
Help us grow this community of go-getters. Together, we can achieve greatness and get back to family.
Thanks for listening, and let's keep digging the well.